Hello, my name's Julia Symington and I'm from Symphysis Yoga and Healing. And today I'm here to just give you some real basics of yoga. So if you're new to yoga, you might find this interesting. I'm in my home, we're in lockdown at the moment. But when we first come to yoga, what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to feel? So if you keep in mind a few concepts, I love concepts. So concepts are, you need first of all to feel safe, to feel that I'm okay to have a crack at this. And you need to wear some clothing that you can move easily in. I've just got a t-shirt on and I've got a pair of leggings on so that you can see my legs and what they're doing. And then we have to get to know our own body and feel at peace with that body. Everyone's got different bodies, and the body that you're living in will be different, will be based on the physiology that you have, the different muscles and bones, what you've done with them, and things that have happened to you in your life, how you've used your body, and what accidents or adventures you've involved yourself in, whether you have any illnesses that need to be taken into consideration. And hopefully you're working with a teacher or working with some sort of app or whatever that's going to give you some hints around there. So for example, if you know that it's not useful to take your head down low, then don't do that. If you know that your blood pressure is very high, there are some things that will make that go even higher. So you don't want to do things that are going to exacerbate conditions that you have. So it's good to be aware of what's useful for you and what's not useful for you. And then we have to get to know the body that we're in. Now we've got lots of different joints in our body. The main one is, if you think of the spine, you've got all these different vertebrae making up the spine, all the way from right at the base of the spine up to the top of the spine, which is right in underneath the skull. So you can't even see the top of the spine. And that spine is designed for you to have flexibility so that you can twist and turn, and so that you can bend forwards and arch backwards. Yeah. So the more you take your head forward, the more you'll be able to bend forward. The more you can take the head backwards, the more you'll be able to bend backwards according to your ability. And then, of course, we need to take into consideration what our age is. I'm a mature woman. I've seen quite a lot of summers. So, of course, the way I can bend now is different to the way I could when I was in my prime for yoga, which is probably in my 40s. So, it's different now. I'm much, much older now. So I have to work a little bit differently and to take into consideration the wear and tear on my joints. So with the spine, you just start to, I'll show you from the side, you start to tuck your chin in and bending forward and explore how far you can go. Now, if it's not great for you to bend forward like that, just bending the knees and holding your head up can still give you a little bit of forward movement, but not add any pressure to the head. Yeah, but otherwise, just straightening the legs, great stretch for the hamstrings. And gradually you'll become more and more flexible. If you can stay there, then the muscles have a chance to release. And have a conversation with your body. Keep saying, can I have a little bit more, please? Can I have a little bit more? So I think when I first started yoga, I was probably here. And then over time, I've been able to go much further. And now as I'm aging, I'm noticing that my flexibility is not as good as it used to be. That's just the way it is. Yeah? And going backwards, for me, that's a greater restriction. One way to do that, I love, is you have a finger in front of you and look at that finger and take your finger overhead. I'm just pushing my hips forward to allow me to go further backwards. And as long as I watch the finger, that will give me how far I can go backwards. I can just change fingers and I'm watching the pad of the finger. That's also a great strategy for looking after your neck and finding out how far you can turn your head. And here I'm just turning the head, not turning my trunk or my torso. You can do that on both sides. A little easier for me to go to that side. But this is about you. And then if we work our way down, shoulders can come up and down, up and down. So often we keep them just a little bit up and forget to release them all the way down. So just reminding shoulders to come up and down. This is a great release for tension. Sometimes it's useful to have the shoulders up. Most of the time it's not, but if you want to reach something off a high shelf, it's really good to be able to let the shoulder come up. And I love doing some shoulder rotations. And I like to bring the elbows into it as well. If you stiffen the shoulders, you might want to just do a little circle with the elbow. And then as you do more, you can take the elbow up higher and then bring the whole hand into the movement as well. And you've got two arms so that you can do two either independently or both at the same time. A lot of this choice is your choice, what works best for you. I also love a bit of one going backwards and one coming forwards at the same time, particularly if I'm doing, one going backwards and the other one going forward. I love that movement that comes all the way right down to the legs as my body starts moving and then changing direction. So one's going backward and one is coming forward. It often takes a little while for people to get used to that, but I love the upward movement and then the drop down. So let's leave, and if we're doing shoulder rotations, then forwards and backwards to see which is the most beneficial for you. So again, we've got shoulders up, shoulders down, shoulders up, shoulders down, and a simple twist to seeing how far the body can move. I quite like giving myself a bit of a smack on the bottom, turning the head around, nice warm up. And becoming aware of your posture, how your body is placed. So we often talk about yoga poses or postures. It's how you place your body. So often people, and as they get older, or if we're doing a whole lot of computer work, our head starts to become forward. And because we're looking down a lot, forward and down, it makes the strain on our neck heightened, and it's not good. And then often we do that and we stick our belly out as the shoulders come forward as well. That makes it hard on our lower back. But if we can stand firmly through our feet and literally grow up, in between each vertebra and our back, there's a whole lot of discs, or there's a disc in between each vertebra. If we stand up straight, we take the pressure off those discs, and it gives a whole lot more space for all of the organs that we've got underneath the lungs and going right down into the hips. Imagine if you squashed everything, it just makes it much harder to work. So if you lift up as much as you can, just roll your shoulders back and down a little. You're not looking to be rigid, but soft, open, and welcoming. Feeling more comfortable in your body. And if you want to do a lateral stretch, so a sideways stretch, if you take one hand up and lift up through the arm and going sideways. Coming up, other arm up and over to the side. Now you can let your arm relax, or you can make it bring more energy into the movement by stretching the fingers overhead. And if I show you just in slightly to the side, I've got one hand up and one hand down. Here my arms are fairly relaxed, and here I stretch more. And as soon as I stretch more, I can feel a whole lot of muscles in my body start to become engaged and working more strongly. So that's one of the little things that you can learn with yoga, that you can be quite relaxed. And one way to do that is just feel your forearm. If you let your wrist relax, and you'll feel that your forearm is quite soft and floppy. There's nothing much happening there. But then if you straighten the wrist and stretch out through the fingers, you'll feel these muscles are much firmer. Now I can relax, or I can activate. And you might even feel that, although I haven't got a lot of, strong muscles, you can just see this, lovely old lady sort of floppy arm here. But if I make a fist, you can start to see some muscle definition there, and this muscle is firm. So even just making some fists like this, it's simple, but it can activate some muscles. Now you can do it with the arms bent or the arms straight. Really simple things to do, and great for relieving tension on the fingers and the arms. Do it the same with bringing those shoulder lifts as well. Shoulders get really cranky. And then we make our way down to the hips. Now these hip joints, we've got the legs that they can bend forward and they can go backwards as well. You can also bend the knees, move the knees out to the side. So I'm just going to change the angle here so that you can see my lower legs more. So here, and we've got the knees as well. So let's just take the toe. I've got one foot back slightly and just flipping over onto the toe now. So here we've got all of the joints in the feet working, the ankles, the knees, and the hip. And then if I take that a step further, moving the knee in a circle. Now, if you find that makes your balance a bit wobbly, just have something you can hold on to. So now I'm putting all of these joints through a different movement. Now I can do it that way or go the other way. It's just a nice way to warm up your joints. And all the time you're just feeling for any discomfort, any pain. That's the last thing you want. Okay, so changing sides, and always good to do one side and the other. You probably notice as you're practicing that, and that's what we call yoga when we dedicate some time to it. We practice yoga. And that just helps remind us that we never get it perfect, because it's different each time we come to it. That feels so nice on my feet, particularly if you've got winter feet that are inside shoes a lot. That's it. This is great for hips as well, just mobilizing those hip sockets. And going the other way. And then with the hips, I'm standing up here, but you want to be able to bring those knees up without bending forward. So can you stay upright to do that? And with your foot, can you do some ankle circles? I often do this lying down because it's much easier than trying to balance. Or if I'm sitting down, great for tired legs. And going the other way. So it's great to be able to understand each joint and how it moves. For example, the wrists can also move in circles, just like the ankles. Knees like bending and straightening. They don't like bending backwards. If they hyperextend or bend backwards that way, then the ligaments there can get overstretched, which is not great. So better to keep them straight, and sometimes a little bit bent is also good, but you don't want them bending backwards. What can be useful is to stand on one leg to give these thighs a great big stretch and hold on to your foot. Whoa, this is like a runner's stretch. This is challenging my balance. And bring the knees together. Just asking that foot to come in close to your buttocks. I often use something I've got a chair here that I often use with yoga. And on this side, I'm going to use it just to show you how I do that to keep, because this is a tighter leg for me and this one finds it harder to balance. Yeah. So have a play with all of those. With the knees, as I was saying, knees like to bend forward. Now that you can move at the hip and take the knee out to the side, bring it in, forward, out to the side, and still keep the hips moving forward. Another thing that I love to do, and you can do this with bent knees, knock the knees out to the side unless the feet also go out to the side. If you keep a principle in mind, wherever my foot's going, my knee is best to follow that. So if my foot's going that way, bend the knee in the same direction. When you have the knee coming in or going in a different direction, then you start to get some torsion in the knee. It's like wringing a towel, and that knee joint won't love it. And eventually you'll start to get some pain. So, and feel with the legs straight how you can turn the leg in the hip socket without moving the hip. You can do that with both legs. It's fun to just explore movement of different joints and how they move for you. That might be quite different to another person. And I often feel a bit like a belly dancer when I do that, but if I keep my knees bent, I'm just moving my hips in an infinity sign. One hip is pulling forward as the other one is pulling back, and then I change. I'm just keeping the knees bent a little bit, or I can straighten the legs and do it that way. Is either one better or worse? No, it's just a matter of what works for you. So there's a few little tips for you just to become aware of what your body is doing. With this hip movement, it helps you be aware of when one hip is forward and one is back. That's important for a lot of standing poses where you might have one foot forward and one foot back, and you don't want one hip to be back. You want the hips to be level. Sometimes, and with the knee, also being aware of where that is facing. Yeah. So as I turn my body, does the knee have to turn around as well? Or can I keep that facing in that direction and just turn my trunk? Yeah, with the pattern on the pants, you can see quite easily. So here, I've got my hips leveling up, my knee bending, facing forward. And when I turn my trunk, I'm endeavouring to keep that leg still. Okay, I'm going to leave you with that to have a play. And there's so many more things that you can do, but that's just a gentle introduction to get you started. Thank you, Julia Symington, Yoga Spiritually from Symphysis Yoga and Healing. Enjoy.